Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech,
And this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
and welcome back to the snobOS show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. Again, we want to thank you for coming back to another episode. We definitely want to thank all of our subscribers. We want to thank all of our people who download, listen to the show. We definitely want to thank all of our financial supporters. We just got done with our live show. People who subscribe to Patreon, throw us a little change, get to watch the show live, get it early, and get some extra content. So we definitely want to thank our supporters. If you want to become a financial supporter, definitely go to patreon.com/snobOScast to show us some love that way. So without further ado, let us get right into the show. We're going to start off with the lowdown. And I think you talked about this last week, but I just wanted to highlight it that officially, the new Apple SOS service launches in the United States and Canada. If you don't remember, if you don't recall, this service gives you the ability to connect your phone to a satellite. It'll actually show you how to angle and point your phone to actually connect to a satellite. Once you do, it will be able to connect you to a dispatch, for lack of a better term, that will enable you to send your phone's information that you've set up in your health app. So like your name, your weight, your age, any sort of regular medical records, any sort of medical conditions. Of course, all this information you have to put in the health app. If you do, once you set that up, it will send that information and will enable you to message, not necessarily talk to. There's no phone calls involved. It's just a messaging platform where you'll be able to message with dispatch to let them know where you are, your current condition, things of that nature, in hopes that somebody will be able to come to your aid. So right now, this is only available for the iPhone 14, 14 Plus, 14 Pro, and 14 Pro Max. For those people who have those devices, it's actually available now for you to test. You can test it without actually contacting emergency services as a preparatory, good Lord, measure. The satellite network can also be used to share your location with a contact via the Find My app. So in addition to reaching out to dispatch, you'll also share that information to like your, what do you call it? What do you call
Your
the person?
favorites? Your emergency contact?
Yes, emergency contact. It will also share your information with emergency contacts. The SOS feature is free for 2 years after you activate your phone, but of course it will cost money after that. We really don't know how much it's going to cost, but just wanted to let you all know that this feature is live and you actually can go out and test it right now. So I actually went out, and once I got the message, it actually popped up a little message on my phone that emergency SOS is free, is available rather, and then it lets you go through and review all of your medical health information, and then of course ask, are you sure you wanted to share your location, so on and so forth. So that's definitely up if you definitely want to test that out. Well, so the next story, real quick, just a quick hit. Just want to let people know, because we kind of talked about it last week, but I just want to let people know. The next one I actually wanted to sit down and talk about is Apple actually tracking you illegally as well. You know, we've always talked about Apple being the group that's, oh, we'll never share your data. Your data's
Mm-hmm.
localized, is anonymized. We don't have your information. It's encrypted. Safety, data protection. We love you. We don't want to take your
We
data.
don't want to lose you. Please stay
Right.
with us.
Well, it seems like in a way, all of that was a lie.
Bum bum bum.
All right. Apple does have several toggles designed to reduce tracking, but app developers, these are third party app developers that submit apps to the App Store. Developers say that opting out or switching the personalization options did not reduce the amount of detailed analytics the app was sending. Apple, as a result, was sued in California as a part of a class action lawsuit after the findings were made public. The suit alleges that Apple violates state law in connection with its illegal recording of consumers' confidential activity on its consumer mobile applications, and charges that Apple is violating trust with its pervasive and unlawful data tracking and collection business. So, real quick, let me break it down. What's happening is Apple has decided they're going to put ads in the App Store. So when you open up the App Store and search for apps to download, you will see ads in the App Store. And of course, what Google, what Facebook, what all these companies have done with these ads is they want to personalize the ads for you. So what Apple is doing is in the App Store, it's collecting data on if you tap on an ad, how long you stopped on an ad, not the ads, I'm sorry, the apps. If you click on an app, if you downloaded the app, how long you looked at the app description, it collects all of this data and shares it with the advertisers. I don't know if it's anonymized or not. I didn't get into the details of that, but it looks like Apple is collecting this data, even if you decide or opt out of the share data and analytics with Apple. There's a couple places where you can opt out that the story outlines, but even if you opt out of all those, according to this lawsuit, Apple is still collecting this data for advertising purposes. So I just wanted to get your take/opinions on that.
This is very interesting because whenever it pops up, particularly after there is a new OS upgrade, you'll notice
Uh-huh.
when it pops back on, it gives you this thing. Would you like to share analytics with Apple?
Mm-hmm.
I always
Mm-hmm.
say no because
Mm-hmm.
I know that they are one of the ones who are, they're pretty good about, sharing your data, not sharing your data, but I still don't trust it. So I still say, no, I do not want to share my analytics with you if my iPhone crashes or whatever the case may be. I always still opt out of it. So I'm very interested that it does say that some of these apps are, these ads are still tracking because I know there are a couple of mobile games that I have on my phone that I play as kind of like a palate cleanser. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things is if you want to get an extra life, you can watch this video. And on
Mm-hmm.
the image that is showing in Macworld, this Royal Match ad, it
Mm-hmm.
comes up a lot. Pretty much every time if I say, okay, I'll watch another video, I'll watch a 30-second video, 5-second video to get an
Mm-hmm.
extra boost or an extra life. I noticed that it's pretty much either this Royal Match or
Mm-hmm.
it's this Gardenscape. They're all the same. And I find it interesting in some of the ads, they have some pretty famous people talking about, hey, you should play this game. And I always
Mm-hmm.
like stop to think like, how can they afford to have this celebrity, C-list, D-list or not, to come on and film a video to promote this game that seems fairly asinine? It's like a matching game where you kind of, just move like it's kind of like almost like Candy Crush, but not with the way the game works. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's making sense to me now why you see the ad so many times. Because if they are doing this tracking, then yeah, I could see it. And I think it is um if this is true, I think that they are being very disingenuous with how they are portraying themselves to their consumers. And we have a whole podcast dedicated to Apple, and pretty much all of my products, my personal products, are Apple products. So this is coming from someone who is deep in the rabbit hole, who followed the right rabbit into the Apple ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
saying that if this is the case, this is very disingenuous. And, if they have to come off some ducats, it's very much warranted if this is the case. And more importantly, are they going to do anything to rectify this? Or are they just going to say, okay, fine, here's the money because Apple has a boatload of money and continue? And are they going to continue, this type of tracking? That is what I would be the most interested to see. Are they going to continue to do this now that people know about it?
Right, right. So here's the thing. It's not surprising to me that Apple is watching what people click on in the App Store in order to serve ads, in theory, quote unquote, that are personalized ads based on what apps you look at, how long you look at them, what you download, things of that nature, right? It's not surprising to me. The issue that Apple runs into is anytime you want to cater to advertisers, you're going to have to give them information that's going to help them spend their money wisely. Because no ad company or no person wants to put an ad up and it doesn't get the maximum reach
It doesn't get them a
effect.
return.
Well,
That's the
right.
whole point of the ad, right?
It doesn't give them a return. So it's pointless in today's advertising to put any ad out there without being targeted to specific, whatever the case may be, right? So Apple can't say we're putting ads in the App Store. Good luck. Whatever you put up there, it may reach some people. It may reach whatever the case may be.
Right.
No, that's not how it works. So it's not surprising to me that they do that, right? What is what the issue is with Apple is, like this story highlights, the Apple's alleged tracking system seems ironic, given that ever since iOS 14.5 saw the introduction of strict measures to prevent third-party developers from tracking users without consent. So ever since iOS 14.6, Apple has cracked down on third-party developers tracking people who download their apps, right? They're like, Apple's like, no, you can't do that. And then, like I mentioned at the top, Apple's been super strict on data privacy, poking jabs at Android, poking jabs at Google, poking jabs at Facebook, on their data privacy, when in fact, Apple is kind of getting caught doing the same thing. Now, again, we don't know if the data is, I'm assuming that the data is anonymized. So the advertiser that's getting this bulk of data is not getting actual people. It's just getting anonymized data profiles, for lack of a better term. Right. So it kind of falls in line with what everybody else is doing. It's just Apple has decided to do it too. Again, the problem with that is Apple has poked fun at people for doing it, and now they're doing it too. So it seems,
and created whole new settings. The whole app tracking thing that had everybody so a buzz. And that's the thing. It's the hypocrisy of it. It's one thing if you're going to do the same thing that other people are doing, but don't be trying to make yourself seem like you're the more high ground. You're so much better than these folks when you're doing the same thing and you're doing it undercover. You didn't give any type of indication that this was happening. And now you got egg on your face because you talk so much crap. And now it come to find out you doing the same thing and not allowing other companies to do it. That's, I think, where they're probably going to get into the biggest sticky situation, because it's one thing for you to say you can't do it and I'm not doing it, but it's another thing to say, well, you can't do it, but I can, and I'm going to purposefully make sure and do a whole, PR press run about it, how much I'm protecting, our users, but you're doing the same thing and you're not allowing them to do it. So that's where I think they're going to get into some sticky water.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so the next story I got up here is, it seems like Android is fighting back against the blue bubble, green bubble thing, and I just wanted to get your take. But before I do that, I wanted to show this video of a pretty decent breakdown of what's happening as it relates to reactions when it comes to the green bubbles versus the blue bubbles, then what Google has recently done. So let me cue this up and then let me know what you think.
Okay.
All right.
Google just flipped the tables on the iPhone a little bit in the ongoing blue bubbles versus green bubbles saga. So up until this update, iPhones and Androids can text with green bubbles and SMS, but when an iPhone user wants to react to a text, which is an iMessage feature, the Android user would literally just get a separate text message that said, Marquez loved your message, which, like, it made sense, but it's also just kind of annoying as an Android user. It would just be one more reason you'd be thinking about maybe just getting an iPhone. But Google's latest update to their messaging app actually added reactions support. It literally intercepts those text messages and then just turns them into reactions, which is sweet, except that now when the Android user goes to react back to the iPhone user's message, the iPhone is now the one getting the text message that Marquez liked your message. But for the first time, it is slightly more annoying to be the iPhone user in this blue versus green bubble situation. Your move, Apple.
There you go. All right. So basically, for those who you didn't recognize if you're listening, that was Marcus Brownlee, aka MKBHD. He is an Android user, but talks heavily in the Apple space. And he is pretty much highlighting the reactions. So for instance, if I like a message from Nica, it'll show up as a little thumbs up, smiley face, LOL, whatever the case may be. If I do that to somebody else who's an Android user, it'll send a whole new message. Now Apple has flipped the table, Android has flipped the tables. And when Android users now can react to messages, it'll show up as a whole different message for Apple users. So I guess my question to you is, will iPhone users really care that if they send a message to an Android user and an Android user reacts with a thumbs up, LOL, and it comes back to an iPhone user as a totally new message that says, Nica liked this? Mm-hmm. Is this a big deal, or is this really like a gut punch back to Apple that everybody wants to claim it is, or is this like, so what? There's just another message. I just want to get your take on that.
I think most Apple users be like, yeah, all right, cool, and go on about their business. But I do have to give Android their kudos, because when this whole RCS blue bubble, green bubble conversation came up, we talked about it on our show and we said, you know what? Why should Apple have to do anything? Google, Android, if y'all want to do something, do it on your end. And they did. They did. They said, okay, all right, we see the game you want to play. You don't want to play our game, so we're going to give that same energy back to you that you're giving to us. So I have to give them a little golf clap, because that was quite clever. I didn't think they had it in them, but they have someone over there who is willing to be a little bit petty. So I think it's actually pretty funny. And I think it's more of a insecurity issue on the Android side to say, I gotcha. To them, it's a gotcha because they've had to deal with this for so long. But honestly, Apple people, I know I'm not going to care. I think the average Apple user will be like, and go on about their business. I think the Android people made this a bigger issue on their side, because it's like, we're not the cool kids. That's not fair. We should be able to sit at the table with you. That type of thing. And I think most Apple users be like, meh, whatever. But, that's just my thought. I don't care.
Right. So I think Android people are looking at this wrong, right? I don't think that Android did this, or Google for that matter. Well, let's say Android since it's the operating system. I don't think Android did this as a direct. I don't think they should look at it, even if Android did do it as a direct response to what Apple is doing. I don't think they should look at it that way. I think Android users should look at it as, oh, we got this dope new feature that if I'm texting another Android user, instead of clicking a response and having to send a whole new text message to another Android user or another SMS user or another MMS user or whatever you use, instead of getting his whole new text message back, now you get to see the thumbs up or the LOL or the exclamation points or whatever the reaction is.
You got what you wanted. This is what you wanted.
Now you got a cool feature that you can share with other Android users. But of course, their Android people are looking at it as, oh, now the ball's back in your court, Apple, instead of looking at it like, oh, we got this dope new feature.
We're not even on the court. We're not even trying to
Right.
play. This wasn't our thing from the beginning. This was your thing.
Right.
This was a complaint from you that you wanted Apple people to be able to do. Now, the company of choice, the OS of choice for you, which is Android, they gave you what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're trying to make a thing out. You're trying to make it a war, but you're fighting by yourself.
I'm
You know how
trying to
that
make
people say you have an argument with yourself. The person who you're trying to get to or goad or get a gotcha to, they're not even playing the same game. Be happy that you can do reactions now. And why do you care what the Apple user sees? You're
right.
able to see the reaction. You're able
Mm-hmm.
to send the reaction on your end. Who gives a crap
Right. Right.
that
Right.
what the you again, they are still too concerned with Apple business. Why do you care? You shouldn't
Right.
care. You got what you wanted. Be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy your um little emoji responses. We've
Right.
had it for a really long time, so
Now
it's
you have it
like
too. So
now
welcome
you
to the
have
party.
it too.
Mm-hmm.
You're in
Mm-hmm.
the party. You want to sit at the cool kids table. You got an invitation.
Right.
Enjoy the table. Enjoy the table. Don't try and bring fracas to the table. Just sit down, eat your chicken nuggets, and enjoy it. Be
All
happy.
right. All right. All right. That sounds about right. All right. That's all I got for the lowdown. Let's move into second string. And I thought this was pretty cool because I'm pretty sure everybody has a lot of gadgets laying around that are lithium battery powered, and you're not supposed to just throw them in the trash. You're supposed to dispose of them properly. I'm guessing most people don't.
Nope.
But if you are a person that has an old cell phone, an old laptop, old set of headphones that are wireless, anything that uses a battery, you can actually go to an Audi dealership, and the materials that they actually collect from these devices may contain enough material to be recycled to actually manufacture new electric vehicle batteries. So I just thought that was cool that, this Audi and Redwood Materials team up. Redwood Materials, I'm assuming, is a company that makes batteries. They have launched a unique consumer facing program. They'll have like little recycle bins outside of an Audi dealership to where if you're, test driving an Audi or looking to purchase an Audi or just happen to live near an Audi dealership, you can actually bring your used and unused and unwanted electronic materials with batteries. Like I said, iPods. I'm trying to think of all the things laying around my house. I've got iPods. I've got an old MacBook that I haven't thrown away because I want to do it properly. I've got old phones. I've got a Nexus tablet that is still sitting up in junk somewhere. All these products have batteries that, again, like I mentioned, you're not supposed to throw them away. But if
Mhm.
you actually take them to an Audi dealership and put them in this Redwood recycling bin, they may contain enough content to where Redwood and Audi will manufacture new and more sustainable electric vehicle batteries. So I just want to get your opinions on that.
This is pretty cool. I like the way that they are taking something that people usually discard of incorrectly and
Hmm.
are trying to, recycle that to one, have less waste, have less harmful waste in landfills, and actually use it for something good, as something like EVs. My only question is, as an Audi driver, do I get like some discount on services? Because these German luxury car dealerships, when you have to get something serviced, it is not cheap. Am I going to get a discount on a service? I need some new brakes right now. Am I going to get a discount on these brakes if I bring in some old phones? Let
More
me know.
important, and additionally, if you are looking to purchase a new electric vehicle, will if you dropping off your old devices again, most places will recycle them for free. What would
Mhm.
really kick this thing off to where if you got some sort of credits to where you can,
Mhm.
I don't know, put it on a card or it go to the purchase of an Audi electric vehicle. I didn't see nothing about that. I put on the screen for those watching on YouTube or watching live. I put the picture of the redwood materials recycle bin just so you know what it looks like. So again, an incentive to actually do this, which I mean, keep it 100. You shouldn't need an incentive to do the right thing, but America's. This is what we do.
And
right?
again, these vehicles
Are
are one,
expensive.
expensive to purchase and even more expensive to maintain. So yes, give me a discount off of some services. Can I get 10% off my brakes? Can I
Right.
get maybe a gift card for some accessories? I mean, let's work something out. Let's do a little quid pro quo here. Do something.
Right.
Help sister out. Again, I need to get some breaks now. So what can I do? What can we
Right.
do
Right.
together?
help me help
Help
you to
me,
help
help
me. Right.
you.
Right. All right. So the next story I had, it looks like Netflix now lets you, I put in the notes, passively aggressively log out of Netflix devices remotely. So basically, at the time of you hearing this, Netflix users will be able to see all the devices linked to their account and have the option to remotely log out of each one individually. So this kind of goes in hand with, Netflix kind of clamping down on people sharing accounts with other family members that may or may not live in the house with you. For those people who do want to either, get some of those family members to, hey, you need to pony up for this service that you didn't sign into my account for and getting free. I need you to kick me back a couple dollars. If you don't, then I can go ahead and flip this switch and log you out of that account to where you either have to buy your own Netflix account, or like I mentioned, kick me a couple dollars and I can get that turned back on for you. So what are your take? Is this Netflix being petty, or is this giving people the shadiness that they need to be able to finally kick those family members who've been mooching off of them via Netflix?
I think it's both.
Okay.
I think it's the fact that Netflix has been moving quite pettily lately, especially with the whole, you can't share passwords and, we're going to charge you extra. We're going to give you some ads now on an ad supported tier. And for people who, they have mooching relatives, that they may not want to say, okay, I need you to not be on my account. You can just be like, boop. You're logged out. You can't log back in. Thank you.
Right.
And change your
And
password and they can't get back in.
right. So a reason why this feature is important, like I mentioned before, Netflix is starting to clamp down on people saying, hey, you sharing your account with so many people and they live in all these places, we're going to start charging you more money. So if you're going to charge me more money, then I need to have the ability to either come to these people and be like, hey, I need you to kick in a couple dollars because they charging me
Right.
more. And if them people don't want to do it, the account holder has a way to actually get rid of those people, so you won't be charged extra. Now, if you don't mind sharing your Netflix account with people and you don't mind getting charged for sharing your Netflix account with people, by all means,
Have at
but
it.
just let you know, we gonna start charging people, and we want to be able to give you the ammunition to either accept those charges, or B, cut them people off so you don't get charged extra, because we're going to charge you extra.
Yeah. Or like the whole repossession. You said you're gonna give me $2 a month and you don't give me your $2,
Right.
then
You don't
I'm
you don't
going
be
to
hitting.
repo your access.
Right. I don't be seeing them PayPals. I don't see them Cash Apps. You did it for the first month or two, and then I noticed they stopped coming. So let me go
Dropped
ahead and
off.
let me go ahead and remind you what time it is.
Right.
All right. So the next story I got here is, of course, Elon Musk is firing employees for talking smack. Of course, we've been talking about, all anybody else can talk about is Twitter and what Elon Musk is doing over there. He's doing all kinds of stuff. We've talked about it in
It's a
the
hot mess.
shows before, right? But this recent one is Musk has confirmed he'd fired employees after they spoke out on Twitter and even in the company's private Slack.
Slack.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Platformer sources say that at least 20 people have been fired for Slack posts so far. So I wanted to get your opinion on this, since Elon Musk, his whole original reasoning for buying Twitter was to bring back free speech. And it seems like all the things he's been doing since actually taking the reins of Twitter has been silencing people, from trying to get them to pay for blue checks, from banning people who impersonate parody accounts on Twitter, to now actually firing employees for having dissent when it comes to what's going on in Twitter. So I just want to get your takes on that.
Ain't nobody shocked by this. This is a giant man baby.
Okay.
Nobody is shocked by this. If they are, have you been hiding under a rock?
Right.
Again, this man has been doing this type of stuff for as long as I can remember.
Right.
He's a huge egomaniac. So, of course, if someone is saying what he's doing is stupid, or he's using the wrong nomenclature, or he doesn't know what he's talking about, he put out some tweet with like a word salad of technical jargon. And
Mm-hmm.
his own Twitter engineers are like, this is not what we do. This is not how this works. What are you even
Right.
talking about? So it's one of those things where he is an entitled, privileged, wealthy man. So
Mm-hmm.
he's used to people coddling him, telling him he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So any type of correction, any type of dissent, any type of constructive criticism, because I've seen some of that, from his point of view, is going to be taken as a direct insult on him.
Mm-hmm.
That just seems to be the way this dude is wired. So I'm not surprised. This is the same person who's actually being fact checked as wrong by his
Mm-hmm.
own app. He gets on here
Mm-hmm.
and says some of the most outlandish stuff that is verifiably, you can prove it.
Incorrect. Right.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where you wrote this, your own app that you own says this is false, saying that this is wrong. When people, who was it, I think AOC said something, he like
Mm-hmm.
disabled her account or something. Or
Mm-hmm.
Kathy Griffin, people are changing their name to like Elon Musk on their accounts.
Parody.
And yeah,
Yeah.
and he was like, he's canceling, he's
Mm-hmm.
deactivating their accounts. He's a giant man baby.
Mm-hmm.
So none of this is surprising. What is, I think, the larger issue is he's violating all sorts of employee EEOC rules and regulations by
Mm-hmm.
doing this, by
Mm-hmm.
firing these people. I think he's, I'm not sure if it's Twitter. I'm not sure. I think they're based in California, but at will states like Georgia's an at will state, meaning you can be fired for
Mm-hmm.
not even a real reason.
Right. Right.
But this isn't to say other countries, most countries outside the US, because the US is a capitalistic society and they want you to work until you die and, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where most countries have very strict and tight rules when it relates to employee employer type of interactions, what you can fire people for, how much notice you have to give them, those types of things. And here in the States, it's pretty loosey goosey, unfortunately. So I feel bad for these employees because they have every right to go onto their personal account on their personal time and talk about whatever they want. And again, this whole reason for him taking over is for this free speech movement. I guess it's only free speech as long as you're not talking about him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So again, just wanted to highlight the fact that Twitter has no longer has a communications department for obvious reasons. They haven't said anything, but Elon Musk did put up a tweet in response to people getting fired for being critical of him and Twitter. He puts out this tweet, says, "I would like to apologize for firing these geniuses. Their immense talent will no doubt be of great use elsewhere." So again, I
See, I
wanted
don't
to
know.
throw.
Is that shady? I don't know if he's, because
Yes, it
he is the way
was.
he is. Oh, okay. I was like, I always assume the worst
Mm-hmm.
because that's what his actions have conditioned me to do. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know if he's trying to be an asshole or if he's actually being genuine. And
No, the
my thought is
former.
asshole. Yeah, my thought is
Mm-hmm.
asshole because I mean he is who he is. So okay, all right, that makes sense. That tracks.
So
Okay.
My idea, I think this is a disguise. I think, again, my whole point is what I think is happening with Elon Musk is he's coming to the realization that he paid too much for Twitter.
Mm.
It's not worth what he paid for it. Twitter does not produce enough revenue or profit for him to get his money back anytime soon, if ever. So he's going through the process of how do I create income or revenue? And he does what any company does. He cuts people, right?
Mm.
But instead of him coming out and saying that, I can't figure out how to make Twitter profitable, so I'm going to fire people. He's coming up with all these, in my opinion, coming up with all these different reasonings, all these petty stuff, whether it be forcing everybody to come in from remote work or
Making them
firing people,
send them an email at midnight saying click on a link to say yes if you're down
going to
for
work.
extreme hardcore working.
Exactly. All these roundabout, petty, passive aggressive ways to say, look, I don't know how I'm going to turn Twitter around. The only way I know how to stop the bleeding right now is to fire people. And that's what other companies done. They do it all the time. They're doing it right now. Facebook, Amazon, all these companies, these big tech companies specifically, are firing or laying off people because they're concerned. Right. Because they're concerned about what their bottom line is going to look like if and or when this recession hits. That's what companies do. I don't understand why CEOs get all this praise for doing all these great things when all they do is figure out how to cut costs. And that's what Elon Musk is doing. So it shouldn't be a surprise that he's doing this. I just think that people, rightfully so, are getting caught up in the how he's doing it and not really taking a sit back and look at why it's happening. I think the reason why it's happening is because he's, oh shit, I didn't spend all this money on Twitter. I'm not smart enough to turn it around. So let me just fire some people and then let them be mad at how I'm doing it without actually looking back and saying, all right, dude, you're not going to be able to turn this around. And we see what time it is. All we got to do is wait for Twitter to implode or he take his ball and go home because, again, he's not the smart dude that everybody wants him to be.
Yeah. And I honestly think, I want to get your thoughts. Do you think he would have taken a different approach if he was heralded as he thought he would be for buying Twitter? I think he thought that he would be, held up even higher as some sort of savior of social media if he was like lauded for all these changes that he initially wanted to make or the way he was coming in. Do you think he would still go down this path if he was, held up the way he probably thought he would?
Well, I believe different. I believe he would have been, but for different reasons. If he could have weaseled his way out of that $44 billion Twitter price and got it down to what he wanted to do was he wanted to renegotiate the price of Twitter. He wanted to get it down to half of, let's just say 20. I don't know. These are not real numbers, but I think if he would have bought Twitter for $20 billion instead of $44 billion, he would not have had to work as hard to make the numbers make sense. So I don't think he would have done all this. Now I don't know. But based on his track record, what he did with employees at Tesla, it's safe to say he would have done some of this anyway, but I don't think he would have done it at this grand scale. And I don't think he would have done it this fast. He would have found some sneaky, long game, underhanded, quiet way to do it like other CEOs do it. They do it underhand. They say, recession, we got to prepare for the upcoming recession and, we grew too fast and all these other reasons why typical CEOs lay people off. He probably would have done it that way. But
So you're
since
just
he's
too underwater.
but he's too underwater, and he's like, I gotta cut this stuff now
I had to get my
because
money back.
well, no, not even money back. I've got to pay the people who put up the money to buy Twitter because he didn't put up his money.
Yeah.
He did not put
Yeah.
up all his money to buy Twitter. He used other people's money, and these other people
A
are
lot of
going to
Saudi money from what I understood.
they are going to come calling, and he's got to figure out how to turn this
How to
ship
pay you.
around
Yeah.
now, not
Yeah.
5 years from now, not eventually, now.
Yeah.
But that's just
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. I think you're onto something. I really
Yeah.
do. And I don't think, you know, this guy isn't very smart. And I think he thought he was going to be able to roll in here and how he did
Hmm.
the whole sync thing. I thought he thought
Hmm.
he was going to come in, be able to say some quippy little things and, get some laughs and get people, jolly on his side. I don't think he realized how much work he was going to actually have to do. And now he's in it. And he was like, I didn't sign up to do no work. I signed up to come and be the happy fun lucky guy. And now
What?
like I actually have
Mhm.
to do some work.
Yeah, and in addition to that, I think he bought a piece of tech, but he actually bought a community of people. And a
Mm,
community of people is totally different than just a piece of technology that he can just have
yeah,
some engineers change some
yeah,
code around, right? Or have
yeah.
some engineers or manufacturers change a part or, add a new
This isn't
feature.
a manufacturing
Yeah.
company.
This ain't a car, this ain't a
Yeah,
spaceship. This is a community of people, and it's a little bit
yeah,
different.
yeah. Just a tiny bit.
All right, so moving on to for the culture, I got a couple of quick hits. Did you see the Emancipation trailer with Will Smith that recently dropped? And again, ultimately, what I want to get to is, are you down with another quote unquote slave movie, or do you feel are you been overrun with them, or do you think that Will Smith lending his acting chops to this movie will bring something different to the table?
So I haven't seen the trailer. I did see people talking about it.
Hmm.
I do have a special feeling about quote unquote slave movies. There are several that I haven't seen and I won't see. I
Hmm.
have no issue with historical, whether they're, actually, biographical stories or even if they're fictional stories based on actual things that happened. I
Hmm.
have no issues with those type of movies, but I will not engage in slave trauma porn. I will not go and see something that I know is going to actively show Black people being further harmed. We got enough freaking trauma already. So I'm
Right.
not buying into that part of quote unquote slave movies. Now, if they're talking historical type things or, maybe a triumphant aspect to this,
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
you know what?
Hmm.
I can get down with that. The same way they did the movie Till. I haven't seen it yet. But the director said you will not see any harm or trauma to Black people on
Hmm.
screen in this movie. That's the type of stuff I can be down with, but I am not going to sit through and watch Black people being harmed because Black people are still being harmed right
Hmm.
now on video, on these social media apps. There's no warning. They just kind of hit against people who look like me, people who are my kinfolk. So no, I will not be. If this is what that is, I will not be watching it.
Okay, so the according to the trailer, I did watch the trailer. It does seem like it's suspense. It does seem like a thriller. According to the trailer, I didn't get the impression that there was going to be trauma porn, as you mentioned it. Uh, but it will be suspenseful. You will see it will maybe be graphic images of trauma, of I guess violence, but I don't think you're going to see actual harm come to depiction of slave mistreatment, right?
Okay.
This does appear to be more of a um, what did you say earlier? You said
Historical?
not a historical redemption. You said it would be triumph, right? It seems like more of a, you think of the word emancipation, people being emancipated, right? So according to the trailer, Will Smith is a slave. He gets separated from his family. He plots escape. He's getting chased, and he eventually, according to the trailer, he joins the revolutionary, the Union Army, and he fights back. They don't tell you the whole story, but that's what you're able to glean from the trailer. So it seems like more of a hero story that I'm getting. I didn't see, of course, it's just a trailer, but I didn't get any.
Right.
They give you suspense, and it's a thriller. Like, because he does escape. He does show that he has been beaten. He shows the wounds, but they don't actually show anybody getting whipped. They don't show anybody getting killed. They don't show any of those things that we have seen in some of the recent, like the 12 Years a Slave is the one I can think of.
Never
You don't
watched
see,
it.
yeah, me neither. So I didn't get the impression that that is there, but at the same time, it is a slave movie. It does have Will Smith, and recently, I think this movie was pushed back was because he got into that issues with Chris Rock.
Slapgate.
So,
Yeah.
right. So now they're finally saying, okay, the coast is clear. We've moved on to other things like we normally do. Now's the time to put this movie out, which is going to stream on Apple TV. So I guess the ultimate thing was, I guess, I want to get your impression of, slave movie by a different name. Are you cool with that, or is it still like it's still a slave movie, and there's better things that they could be doing to depict our history versus just being slaves.
It's definitely better things. I would love to see a historic. You see all of these photographs from the 1800s, the early 1900s, with Black folks in their family photos. They're all coiffed. And, back
Hmm.
then you had to be, you had to look a certain way, be a certain way to even be remotely treated as a full human. So I would love to see, movies around, that type of thing. I think it's important to, especially in this time when they are trying to throw out so much historical content as it
Ban
relates to Black
books,
people, ban
critical
books,
race theory.
movies,
Yeah.
yeah, all
Hmm.
that crap. I think, there's a place for it, but for me, it's the way that it is done. It is the
Hmm.
intent behind it. It's if it's just another movie where they're just gonna show, Black people, being, whipped, working in the fields,
Hmm.
doing being
Hmm.
raped, all that kind of stuff. No, I don't want to
Hmm.
see that. We
Hmm.
already know that that type of thing happened. What type of story surrounding these people are you going to tell? If you're going to go to a slave movie, and why focus so much of the energy on the slave master, what's going on in the big house? These people had full lives. They had
Hmm.
dreams, they had hopes, they had families, they created cultures. If you could take, if you wanted to do a quote unquote slave movie, do it around the way we handled food, the
Hmm.
way we did tradition. They took these enslaved, they brought these people from the continent and enslaved them in this country.
Hmm.
How did their traditions, how do they continue to have
Evolve.
traditions?
Right.
How do they pass them down? Because I was reading something where they were talking about how I found very interesting. When a lot of times when Black people laugh, we'll run,
Hmm.
and it's like, that's just something Black people do. No, that's based on history.
Oh,
That's based
wow.
on the way
Okay.
that slave people worked. Back in the day when you were an enslaved person, if the master saw you being happy, then they figured they weren't working you hard enough. They
Hmm.
were treating you too well. So whenever enslaved people wanted to laugh, they ran away and laughed because they didn't
Hmm.
want the master to
To
see it.
see them.
But to
Right.
see them happy. But now, if you think about it, the first thing we do when we laugh, a lot of times, is we get up and run. or we, hide ourselves, or we fall, those type of things. And we're just thinking, that's just kind of, it's just so funny. It made me run.
Uh-huh.
No,
Uh-huh.
those types of things
Okay.
are very engaged. They live in our DNA. Those things are
Mm-hmm.
passed down. Of course, it's evolved to the point where we don't see it as a negative connotation. But that was the original intent. If you want to make movies about how our culture has, transitioned and moved through time, or how the foundation of those things, the jumping of the broom, those type of things.
Mm-hmm.
If you want
Mm-hmm.
to take that angle, I mean, yes, give me all that. When I saw that thread about how I just talked about the laughing, there were other things in it too. I was like, wow, that
Mm-hmm.
really makes sense. The other thing, another one was, when Black people now, they was like, oh, your child is so cute, your baby is so cute. Well, you can have them because they a mess, blah blah blah. They did that
Yeah,
because
to
in
to
slave
downplay. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
downplay.
yeah.
They didn't want the
Mm-hmm.
master to see that, oh, this child is special, so that they would take them and,
Mm-hmm.
sell them or use them,
Mm-hmm.
harm them. So it's those type of things. If you want to do historical movies, whether it be fiction, fully fictional, or have some based in reality,
Mm-hmm.
tell those stories. There are
Right.
so many stories that can be told around the slave narrative that don't involve Black people being harmed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The one I remember is Church Fingers, where a lot of people, black folks specifically nowadays, when they are leaving church, they'll hold up their finger.
That's it.
That was yeah, yeah. That's rooted back in slavery to where when the black women would look after the kids while white folks was in church, to excuse themselves, they would put up their church finger and walk out of the church. And then it kind of carried on to even today, people
People still do it.
subconsciously doing that. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, you make very good points. I don't know if I'll watch this one or not, just based on a trailer. Like it does seem like there is more, what's the word? More redemption is not the right word. There's a better word that I'm looking for. Triumph in this
Mhm.
one versus some of the other ones. Again, my kids are at the age to where we need to start talking about history, need to start talking more about culture, need to start talking about more of these things, because I'm just going to keep it 100. In the area that I live, they ain't talking about this stuff in school at all. So it
And won't,
does.
and will make laws and rules against not teaching it.
Right. So it does, the responsibility does fall on me and my wife to tell these stories. I don't know if this is going to be the introduction. I may have to watch it first to see if there is some talking points, some stories,
Mhm.
some lessons, some, historical things that they, may be privy to or not. I don't know. Case is still out on this one. It'd be interesting to see. I am interested nonetheless to see that since Will Smith is attached to this, how will it be? Because
Yeah.
this is a dramatic to say the least type of movie. So we'll see if he can. Because I do believe in redemption, and
Yeah.
I do believe he should be afforded that, and it would be
Absolutely.
nice to see that this would be like the start of him being for some people, to be redeemed. So
Yeah, I may turn it on and let it play while I'm not at home so they can get the
right.
stream count. I mean, honestly, that's how I do movies that I want to support, but I don't want to see. I'll just buy a ticket to the movie and not go.
Right.
So they get
Right.
the
Gotcha.
the revenue, they get the count, and I support them without having to see it. Because reading it further down this article, they said that this movie was inspired by a photo of the slave called, quote, whipped Peter, which
Hmm.
showcased the
Yes. That's an
mutilation of one Black man.
yeah.
And I can already, based on just that one sentence,
Yeah.
this
They
is
do
not real.
show again, they don't show him getting whipped, but they do take that picture of Will Smith and his back turned to the camera, and they show that, that gruesome,
Yeah.
the marks and the
Yeah.
scars. So they show they they make sure to highlight the atrocities
Mhm.
without actually depicting, the actual atrocities. So
Yeah.
for that, I'm interested to see how they do that. I think that's one of
Mm,
my main draw to this is to see how they do this one a little
mm,
different, because we have been complaining for, the better part of 10 years about how we are depicted, in those times.
yeah.
And it'd be interesting to see if they do something different, or do they just go for the, what they think people want to see when it comes to slavery versus, like you said, doing all the other things that you kind
Yeah.
of mentioned.
Yeah.
All right, all right. So I had another story here about Dave Chappelle on SNL, but I think we did a nice little conversation about this. So I'm going to maybe save that for next week. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll into the hookup this week. If you use your iPad a lot and you actually take screenshots, there is a way to quickly take a screenshot on an iPad. Traditionally, what you have to do is you have to press two buttons at the same time, whether it be the sleep wake button and the home button if you still have an iPad with a home button, or if you, for instance, in my case, you have the button on the side for the thumb for the touch ID. You have to press that in one of the volume up buttons, which can be a little bit cumbersome if you want to do it real fast. But there is a gesture with your finger that you can make to where you can actually quickly swipe up from the lower left or lower right hand corner to actually quickly take a screenshot on your iPad. So basically what you do is you go into settings, go to general, you have to enable allow finger to swipe from corner. And then once you tap that, you can choose which corner, whether you swipe up from the left to take a screenshot or swipe up from the right. The way I got it set up is on my iPad, if I swipe up from the lower left-hand corner, it takes a screenshot. And if I swipe up from the lower right-hand corner, it opens up a note so I can make a quick note. So that is my tip, because I am trying to use my iPad a little bit more because I paid a nice little piece of change for it. So trying to get a little bit more productivity out of my iPad. So that is my hookup for the week. And other than that, I think we are done for this week. If we don't see you again next week, definitely happy Turkey Day. I think we're probably going to take the week off next week because next Thursday is Thanksgiving. That's when we normally record. So if we don't see you until next week, definitely want to say happy Turkey Day. And before we go, tell the folks where they can find you.
You can find me on all the social media outlets. I am at Tech Savvy Diva.
All right. All right. And you can find me all over the interwebs at Brother Tech. Again, definitely, if you want to support the show, you want to watch the video on YouTube, download the podcast. If you want to do all those things, you need to find one place to go. Definitely go to our website, go to snobOScast.com to get all the details. And with that, we are out. So until week after next, definitely hit us back and let us know what Black Friday stuff you bought. But until then, peace.
Bye, everybody.